Picture this. You're in a deep conversation with a man, and he says something that sticks with you. Is it just small talk, or is there something more behind his words? The truth is, men don't always express their feelings in the most direct way. But what if you could decode these subtle messages and truly understand what he's trying to say? Today, we're breaking down 6 key phrases men use when they genuinely want you. These phrases may seem simple, but they carry powerful insights into his emotions, his level of commitment, and his intentions for the future. If you've ever found yourself wondering, what does he really mean when he says that? This is the insight you don't want to miss. Men don't always say exactly what they feel, not because they're being dishonest, but because, like everyone else, their words are shaped by instincts, experiences, and unconscious patterns. Take, for example, the phrase, "I've never met anyone like you before." At first glance, it sounds like a flattering compliment, something nice but maybe a little generic. But if you look deeper, you'll realize it reveals something far more significant. When a man tells you this, he's not just saying you're unique. He's showing you that his past experiences haven't made him feel this way before. People naturally categorize everything. Our brains rely on patterns and shortcuts to process the endless flow of information we receive every day. So, when someone breaks that pattern, when they stand out in a way that disrupts the usual way we see things, it's a big deal. It means they've triggered something deeper than surface level attraction. And that matters because true emotional connection is built on meaning. For men who take their lives seriously, attraction isn't just about excitement. It's about transformation. When a man sees you as someone who challenges him, who makes him think in new ways, who brings a level of intelligence, depth, or emotional intensity he hasn't encountered before, you become more than just a passing interest. You become someone who leaves a mark. Psychologically, encountering something truly new is powerful. It sparks dopamine, the brain's pleasure and motivation chemical. But more importantly, it creates an emotional imprint. When a man feels you're different in a way that matters, his brain begins to place a higher value on you. That's why the beginning of attraction can feel so intoxicating. But true uniqueness isn't just about being different. It's about being meaningful. So the real question isn't just, are you different from other women he's met, but how you're different. If what sets you apart is your depth, your authenticity, or your wisdom, then you're not just someone new, you're someone unforgettable. But here's where things get complicated. When a man meets a woman who truly stands out, he might be intensely drawn to her, but at the same time, intimidated. Because if you represent something different, you also represent change. And change can be scary. That's why some men seem fascinated by a woman, but hesitate to fully commit. It's not always a lack of interest. Sometimes it's an unspoken fear of what wanting her might require of them. This is where you need to be observant. Is he calling you different because he's idealizing you, putting you on a pedestal rather than seeing you as a real person? Or is he recognizing something deep and meaningful in you and responding to it with genuine effort? If it's the first, be cautious. Idealization is not love. If someone sees you as perfect, they're not truly seeing you at all. Real connection is about truly seeing someone, their strengths, their flaws, their complexity, and still choosing them. If a man sees you as different because you bring something meaningful into his life, whether that's challenging him, inspiring him, or pushing him to grow, his actions will show it. He won't just admire you from a distance. He'll make an effort to be around you. He'll engage with you beyond surface level attraction. He'll want to understand you, learn from you, and build something lasting. The truth is, men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with the person who sparks something in them, something they didn't even know was there. So the next time a man tells you, "I've never met anyone like you before," don't just take it as a compliment. Take it as a sign. What is it about you that disrupted his usual patterns? And more importantly, how does he respond to that realization? Does he step forward, ready to embrace the depth of something real? Or does he pull back, unsure of what it all means? Because in that moment, his response will tell you everything about how serious he really is. When a man says, "I want to show you something," it might seem casual, even unimportant, but this phrase carries far more meaning than people realize. Men don't share just anything with just anyone. Whether consciously or not, they are selective about who they invite into their world. This statement isn't just about whatever he's showing you, it's about what it represents. It's an invitation into his inner world, his interests, and his identity. It's a sign that he's not just trying to impress you, but that he wants to share a part of himself with you. We're wired for connection, but connection only becomes meaningful when there's an investment of time, effort, and emotion. A man who isn't thinking about the future with you will keep his world separate. He won't feel the need to show you things that matter to him because he won't see you as a part of that world. But when a man takes the time to introduce you to something important, his work, a book that changed his perspective, a song that moves him, or a place with deep meaning, he's opening a door to his deeper self. And that's not something men, especially those serious about life, do lightly. There's a real psychological principle at play here. The more people share meaningful experiences, the stronger their bond becomes. This is why lasting relationships aren't just about attraction. They're built on shared engagement in things that matter. When a man says, "I want to show you something," he's creating an opportunity for that connection. It's not just about physical intimacy, but about understanding and appreciation on a deeper level. If you respond with disinterest, apathy, or dismissiveness, you're sending a message that his world doesn't matter to you. And once that message is received, the connection starts to fade. But there's an even deeper layer to this. Many men, whether they realize it or not, are starved for genuine recognition. They live in a world that constantly demands performance, achievement, and results, but rarely asks about their inner lives, what excites them, what moves them beyond material success. When a man wants to show you something, he's testing the waters, trying to see if this is a space where he can be seen for who he is, not just what he does. And that's rare. Men often say they don't just want admiration for their success. They want to be truly understood. This is why a woman's response is so important. If you recognize this moment for what it is, an act of trust, a glimpse into something personal, you can strengthen the bond between you. If you show genuine interest, ask questions, and immerse yourself in what he's sharing, you create a psychological loop of connection. When someone values what we value, we start to associate them with warmth, comfort, and belonging. And when a man begins to connect those feelings to you, his attachment deepens. He no longer sees you as just a romantic interest. He sees you as part of his world. And that's where real, lasting bonds are formed. That said, not all sharing is the same. Some men use sharing as a way to manipulate, to impress, to overwhelm, or to create a sense of obligation. It's important to be able to tell the difference between genuine connection and performative sharing. Is he showing you something because it's a core part of who he is? Or is he doing it to impress you with his status, knowledge, or resources? That distinction makes all the difference. A man who truly wants to connect won't just show you something he values. He'll value you. He'll also be paying close attention to your reaction. He'll want to know what you think, how you feel about it, and what it means to you. A man who's only trying to impress you will be more concerned with how you see him rather than actually building a connection. The strongest relationships are built on shared meaning. When a man invites you into his world like this, whether he realizes it or not, he's testing the waters. He's looking for someone who values what he values. without judgment or indifference. This is why so many relationships fall apart, even when the initial attraction is strong, because attraction alone isn't enough. If you're not actively engaging in each other's worlds, the emotional connection will fade over time. So when he says, I want to show you something, listen carefully. What is he sharing with you? Is it something deeply meaningful to him? Is he trying to start a conversation? Or is he looking for validation? And most importantly, how do you respond? Do you show curiosity and enthusiasm? Or do you treat it like just another moment? Because in that instant, he's revealing a part of himself, and the way you react will determine whether he continues to open up or starts to pull away. When a man says, I just want to make you happy, it might sound like a simple, almost cliche statement, something people say without much thought. But if you really listen, if you break down what's being communicated, you'll realize this phrase carries a weight that most people overlook. Buried within those words is a deep truth about relationships. Men find purpose in being needed, in being valued, in being able to provide something meaningful to someone they care about. Men by nature are driven by purpose. They seek challenges, strive for competence, and push themselves toward goals because on some level they understand that their worth is often tied to what they can contribute. This isn't just a social norm, it's deeply ingrained in human psychology. Throughout history, men have taken on roles as protectors, providers, and builders, not just because society expected it, but because survival depended on it. And while modern life has evolved in many ways, that core instinct hasn't disappeared. So when a man tells you, I just want to make you happy, it's not just a casual remark. He's revealing something essential about how he sees you and how he sees himself in your life. He's sensing, maybe even unconsciously, that your happiness isn't just something he enjoys, but something he feels responsible for. And that's a powerful statement, because responsibility is the foundation of real commitment. It's what separates temporary attraction from deep, lasting investment. But here's where things get tricky. Not all men fully understand what it actually means to make someone happy. Some think simply saying it is enough, as if the intention alone holds weight. Others believe happiness comes from surface-level gestures, gifts, compliments, momentary pleasures, without realizing that true happiness in a relationship is built on something much deeper. It's built on consistency, effort, emotional safety, and trust. If a man genuinely wants to make you happy, you'll see it in his actions. You'll see it in the way he listens, not just when it's easy, but when it's difficult. You'll see it in how he supports you, not just when things are going well, but when life gets tough. You'll see it in his willingness to understand you, to grow with you, and to adapt when necessary. Because real happiness isn't about avoiding problems. It's about facing them together. But there's another side to this, a risk that many women overlook. Some men say, I just want to be the good guy, the one who's seen as generous, selfless, and deeply appreciated. But in reality, their actions don't always match their words. They may become resentful if their efforts go unnoticed, or they may expect gratitude in return for things that should be basic elements of a healthy relationship. That's why you have to look beyond words. Ask yourself, does he listen when I tell him what actually makes me happy, or does he assume he already knows? Does he put in effort to understand my emotional needs, or does he just offer generic solutions? Does he take responsibility when he makes mistakes, or does he expect forgiveness simply because he meant well? Because good intentions aren't enough. What truly creates happiness in a relationship is consistency, accountability, and emotional intelligence. And then there's balance. A relationship where one person feels entirely responsible for the other's happiness is destined to fail. If a man says, I just want to make you happy, but in doing so neglects his own well-being, that's not love. That's self-sacrifice. And eventually, self-sacrifice turns into resentment. A strong relationship thrives on shared happiness, where both partners uplift and support each other. If a man truly loves you, he won't just focus on making you happy. He'll also let you into his world, share his struggles, and allow you to bring joy into his life too. So when you hear these words, don't just take them at face value. Look at what they truly mean. Pay attention to whether his actions align with them. Does his happiness depend entirely on yours, or does he understand that a fulfilling relationship comes from two strong individuals choosing to build something meaningful together? The healthiest relationships aren't built on one person carrying the burden of the other's happiness. They are built on mutual joy, shared growth, and equal responsibility. When a man says, "I don't want to lose you," he's not just voicing a fear, he's revealing something deeply personal about how he sees your relationship, what you mean to him, and how he structures his emotional world around your presence. Men, especially those who take life seriously, don't invest lightly. They don't allow themselves to be vulnerable without a real reason. So if he reaches the point where he says these words, it's because he's had a realization, whether consciously or not, that losing you would be a deeply significant loss. Despite common stereotypes, men aren't emotionally detached. They form deep attachments, but they often express them differently than women. While women usually articulate their emotions through words, connection, and shared experiences, men tend to feel first and understand later. They often don't fully recognize the weight of their emotions until they're faced with the possibility of losing someone. That's why many men don't grasp what they truly have until it's slipping away. When a man says, "I don't want to lose you," it's often because he's realizing, maybe for the first time, that your presence has become a vital part of his stability, his identity, and his sense of purpose. But here's where things get complicated. Not all fears of loss are the same. Some men say, "I don't want to lose you," because they've come to deeply value you and understand that what you bring to their life is irreplaceable. Others say it out of panic because they fear change, because they don't want to face the consequences of their own neglect, because they're scared of being alone. And it's important to know the difference. A man who truly values you doesn't just fear losing you. He actively works to keep you. He doesn't wait until you're walking away to realize your worth. He doesn't only acknowledge your importance when there's a risk of losing you. Instead, he consistently shows up, puts in the effort, and makes sure you never have to question your place in his life. His fear of losing you isn't just reactive, it's proactive. It motivates him to invest in the relationship before it's in jeopardy. On the other hand, some men say, "I don't want to lose you," as a way to buy time. These are the men who didn't prioritize you when they had the chance. The ones who dismissed your concerns, who took your presence for granted, who assumed you'd always be there. And when they sense they're losing control, they panic. They start making promises, pleading for another chance, saying all the right things in a desperate attempt to hold on. But words spoken in fear don't carry the same weight as actions driven by love. This is why you have to ask yourself, is he afraid of losing me because he truly understands my worth? Or is he afraid of losing me because he doesn't want to deal with the discomfort of change? Because the hard truth is, many men fear loss more than they actually value presence. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to start over. They don't want to face the emptiness that comes when someone who cared for them, supported them, and believed in them walks away. And so they hold on, not necessarily because they're ready to do better, but because they aren't ready to face the consequences of their inaction. That's why your response to these words matters. If a man says, "I don't want to lose you," but his actions have never reflected that sentiment, be careful not to mistake fear for love. Love isn't about last-minute desperation. Love is built in the quiet, everyday moments. in consistent effort, in the choice to show up before there's a risk of losing someone. At the same time, if a man says these words and has already proven through his actions that he means them, that he's willing to take responsibility, to change, to build a relationship based on respect, appreciation, and growth, then that's something worth paying attention to. Because when a man truly understands what he has, when he truly sees you, not just as someone passing through his life, but as a foundational part of it, he won't let that realization be temporary. He won't wait until the last moment to fight for you. He'll fight for you every day, in big ways and small ones, in words and in actions, in presence and in commitment. So don't be swayed by the fear of loss alone. Look beyond the words. Look at the patterns, the history, the effort. Because saying, I don't want to lose you is one thing, but proving through consistent action that he's worthy of keeping you is another. In the end, it's not just about whether he wants to hold on to you. It's about whether he's willing to do the work to deserve you. Understanding these phrases is like learning a new language, the language of attraction and commitment. Words carry meaning, but actions reveal the truth. If a man consistently backs up his words with real effort, he's showing you just how much he values you. The strongest relationships aren't built on guessing games. They're built on clarity, trust, and mutual appreciation. And this is where your own self-awareness becomes crucial. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the moment when a man expresses fear of losing you. It can feel validating, reassuring, even tempting to believe that his words alone are enough proof of his devotion. But words are only as meaningful as the actions that follow them. A man who genuinely understands your worth will not just say he doesn't want to lose you. He will prove it through the way he shows up for you consistently, not just when he's afraid of losing you, but in the everyday moments that build trust, security, and love. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is assuming that intense emotions automatically equal deep love. While fear of loss can be a strong emotional reaction, it does not necessarily indicate a strong foundation. A man might feel terrified at the thought of losing you, but if that fear only drives him to say the right things without making meaningful changes, it's not a sign of real growth, it's a sign of panic. And panic is not the same as commitment. So what does real commitment look like? It's in the way a man prioritizes your needs, not just when things are falling apart, but when everything is calm. It's in the way he listens, not just hearing your words, but genuinely trying to understand your feelings. It's in his ability to take accountability, to admit when he's wrong, and to work towards being a better partner. A man who is truly committed to you won't just fear losing you. He'll appreciate you while he still has you. But let's take this a step further, because understanding this isn't just about recognizing a man's actions. It's also about recognizing your own patterns in relationships. Do you find yourself drawn to men who only seem to realize your worth when you're about to walk away? Do you feel more secure when a man expresses fear of losing you, even if his actions haven't consistently shown that he values you? These are important questions to ask yourself. Some women, without realizing it, get caught in a cycle of being with men who only give them attention when there's a threat of loss. These men may not have been emotionally present. They may have taken the relationship for granted, but the moment they sense they might lose her, they suddenly start making grand gestures, saying all the right things, begging for another chance. And while it may feel like love, it's often just fear. Fear of change, fear of being alone, fear of facing the consequences of their own actions. And this is why discernment is so important. There's a difference between a man who fights for you because he truly sees your worth, and a man who fights for you because he's afraid of losing something comfortable and familiar. A man who values you will put in effort before there's a threat of losing you. He won't wait until you're 1 foot out the door to suddenly start treating you the way you deserve. He'll make you feel secure in the relationship, not just with his words, but with his consistency. And consistency is the key here. A man who truly loves and respects you will show up for you in a way that makes you feel safe, not just in moments of crisis, but in everyday life. He'll respect your boundaries. He'll communicate openly. He'll invest in the relationship even when there's no immediate danger of losing you. That's the difference between a man who truly values you and a man who is just afraid of change. Now, let's talk about the deeper emotional impact of being with someone who only reacts when they feel like they're losing you. Over time, this kind of relationship dynamic can make you feel emotionally exhausted. It can create a cycle where you feel like you have to constantly remind someone of your worth, where you have to threaten to leave before they show you affection, where you start equating drama with passion. And that's not a healthy foundation for love. Healthy love doesn't thrive on insecurity or the constant fear of loss. It thrives on stability, on mutual appreciation, on choosing each other every single day, not just in moments of panic, but in moments of peace. Love is not just about how much someone fears losing you. It's about how much they cherish having you. And that's why your own self-worth plays such a crucial role. When you truly understand your value, you won't be swayed by words alone. You won't feel the need to cling to a relationship that only feels alive when it's threatened. You'll be able to recognize when someone is making an effort out of genuine love versus when they're just trying to avoid discomfort. So the next time a man says, "I don't want to lose you," don't just listen to his words. Look at his actions. Has he consistently treated you with respect and care? Has he shown through his behavior that he values you, not just when he's afraid, but all the time? Or has he only now started paying attention because he feels like he's losing control? Because at the end of the day, you don't just want someone who fears losing you. You want someone who chooses you, someone who doesn't just respond to fear, but responds to love, someone who sees your worth long before there's a risk of losing you. And if a man can't recognize your value until you're already halfway out the door, then maybe the real question isn't whether he's afraid to lose you, but whether he ever truly deserved you in the first place. When you truly know your worth, you stop entertaining relationships that thrive on uncertainty. You stop accepting love that only becomes urgent when it's at risk of disappearing. Real love isn't about waiting until the last moment to prove its value. It's about showing up every single day with intention, effort, and consistency. That's why it's so important to look beyond words and recognize the deeper patterns in a man's behavior. If someone only fights for you when they fear losing you, ask yourself, where was this energy before? Why did it take the threat of absence for them to suddenly start valuing your presence? Love that is only reactive is not love. It's attachment, fear, or simply the desire to avoid discomfort. A man who truly values you doesn't let things reach the point where you have to question your importance in his life. He doesn't need the wake-up call of losing you to realize your worth. He cherishes you when you're right there beside him. He makes you feel secure without you having to fight for it. And most importantly, he makes an effort, not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he genuinely wants to be the man you deserve. Too often, people mistake fear of loss for deep love. But love isn't about desperation. It's not about grand gestures made in moments of panic. It's about quiet, steady devotion. It's about the little things, how he listens, how he supports you, how he respects your feelings, how he shows up when it matters most. A man who loves you in a way that is healthy and real will never make you feel like you have to question where you stand with him. This is why emotional security is such a crucial part of a healthy relationship. You shouldn't have to constantly wonder whether someone will step up only when you're ready to walk away. The right relationship should feel like a partnership, not a power struggle where you have to keep proving your value or testing his willingness to fight for you. And let's be honest, there's a difference between a man who fears losing you and a man who fears losing the comfort you provide. Some men will say, I don't want to lose you, not because they are ready to be better, but because they don't want to face the loneliness, the uncertainty, or the effort it takes to rebuild. They miss the security you bring, the way you cared for them, the way you supported them. But that doesn't mean they're ready to truly commit to making things right. That's why you need to pay attention, not just to what a man says, but to what he does once he realizes he might lose you. Does he make meaningful changes? Does he take responsibility for his past mistakes? Does he show through actions, not just words, that he understands what it takes to build a healthy, lasting connection? Or does he simply panic, make empty promises, and hope that fear alone will be enough to keep you around? The truth is, a man who only steps up when he's about to lose you is a man who was comfortable doing the bare minimum until now. And if he could be indifferent to your needs before, what makes you think he won't revert to that same pattern once he feels safe again? Love isn't about short-term fear. It's about long-term commitment. So the next time you hear the words, I don't want to lose you, take a step back. Don't let fear of loss be the thing that keeps you in a situation where you aren't truly valued. Look at the history. Look at the effort. Look at the way he treats you when there is no threat of loss. Because in the end, the man who truly deserves you is the one who doesn't just fight to keep you. He fights every day to make sure you never feel like leaving in the first place.